You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
Give you a nice little detour.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. It is finale night, finale of season 35. We are excited. I am joined tonight by my favorite crew, Josh and Nicole. Welcome in. It's finale night.
Yes.
How's it going?
Thank you for joining us tonight as we cover and break down season 35 finale. And folks, we have a new champion of the Amazing Race, and it is none other than Greg and John, the computer scientists, the brothers, the yellow-green team. They did it. They did it. We expected it. We had, for the first time in a couple seasons, the heavy favorite win the Amazing Race. They were good from beginning to the middle, all the way to the end, and they won. Greg and John are the winners, but why did they win?
They seem to have a very unique, widespread set of very specific characteristics that happen to be perfectly suited for these miscellaneous challenges of the Amazing Race. With every challenge, it was, oh, I lived in this place for a month. Oh, I happen to speak this language. Oh, I happen to have experience doing this. Oh, I happen to be good at this. And it just worked to their advantage time after time after time.
Very Slumdog Millionaire of them, wasn't it? Greg living in France, studying abroad.
Yes.
John living in Seattle for a month. You name it, they had it.
French exchange family.
Are you alluding to, you think that this was a setup?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Just making
They
sure.
just, no, like you said, you're absolutely right. They played musical instruments. It didn't matter. Josh.
They truly
Why
did. They did have a vast array of applicable knowledge, but I also think that they're young. They're smart, right? They're both computer scientists. They were both athletic, even though this wasn't quite an athletic season. The athletic challenges, they rose to the top, and I agree with Nicole in that they're the biggest reason why they won is their vast array of applicable skills. But they are the it team. They do have it all.
To piggyback on what you guys are saying, it helped them surge from the middle or back-ish of the pack to the front. It helped get them out of a jam. It helped them make up time. It also helped them keep their lead. And in the end, it helped them outrun and beat Joel and Garrett, who finished second, to the finish line by under 2 minutes. And if it came down to it, if they had to actually sprint to beat them there, they would have been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Around every corner of this race, they had an answer, they had a strategy, they had an advantage. And that's what happens when you're the mid-20s, super smart, educated, great relationship, brother team, who are fit, who are athletic,
Could navigate.
well-traveled, all the things that we talked about with them from the very beginning, I think consistently played out throughout the season. We know why they won. Did the right team win the Amazing Race season 35?
I think when you have to break it down, yes. Right? I think we've watched them win every single week. We've watched them, but what I want to say, like, in my heart, were they my favorite team? No. I did like many other teams way more than them, and I also thought that there were way more teams that were more interesting to watch each week. I do think that we have glossed over, or I have glossed over, John and Greg, mostly because they were just good at everything. They just came into the challenge, they did it, and they left. There wasn't much tension and much drama, and maybe they do deserve to win, but did I want them to win? No, I really didn't. And I have to say that in a I feel bad way, because they probably are the best team. Like, I know in my brain, but in my heart it doesn't match up.
I think the right team did win. I would be a fan of front runners. I've said this before. I like when the best teams do win. I like when Tom Brady wins Super Bowls, not just because I'm a big fan, but because they were the best team. He was the best quarterback. He was the most prepared. He was the most dedicated. He deserved to win. The bounce of the ball, the fumble, or the batted ball up in the air that screws him and his team over in the big moment. Like, yes, people will love that. Yes, that creates drama. Yes, that maybe isn't what your heart is saying. But in the end, when the best team wins, for me, there's something that is confirming, validating to that fact. And so, with the question being, did the right team win? Yes, the right team won. May not be what we were rooting for in our hearts, and we spoke about that on the podcast, just like Josh was saying. But the right team won. They were the best team from beginning to middle to end. And they won multiple legs throughout the season, and they had no weaknesses. We talked about this for 11 straight episodes, and it played out in the end that even his memory played out, and John has his super memory, and they were able to make up ground with their physical athleticism at the trapeze, or with their memory and their intelligence at the kayaks and the memory challenge. The right team did win. The number one seed has to win the NCAA tournament from time to time. The Patriots and Tom Brady win 6 Super Bowls. I personally love it. I think the best team did win.
Yeah, there's no arguing. They were the best. They won. However, there's a lot of Amazing Race fans who were really rooting for Rob and Corey.
And by a lot of fans, do you mean?
I mean myself.
Well, I think that makes 3 of us.
Yeah, they were clearly a fan favorite. Who doesn't want to see that team win? I mean, they're just so lovable.
So why did Rob and Corey lose then? We love them. I think it's pretty clear if you've been listening, and thank you for listening on the ReRACEables all season long. We've been fan favorites of Rob and Corey all season long. But why did they lose, Nicole?
Because this particular leg just wasn't in their favor, especially the trapeze challenge. It just was not playing to their strengths. Rob had a tough time with that trapeze, and I was pleased to see that he did it eventually after 8 attempts.
Yeah,
but
he was up there.
It really is what set them back and was detrimental to them.
When we found out about the scramble, and you can choose any challenge, I was trying to think about what's the best route, right? There's obviously the closest one, and then there's the middle far one, and then there's the furthest one.
Sure.
Is it better to do the last one first and then work your way back? Is it better to start with the closest one and work your way out? I guess the truth is, and Nicole brought this up, where do you go after? You don't know. Are you going to be in City Center where you are, or you're going to be out further away? But what I do have to think about is that Rob and Corey had to drive all the way out, passing each of these challenges, and then drive back. So they actually ended up doing twice the amount of driving that anyone who just started close and worked your way out on. And if we look at the top 2 finishers, it was the 2 people who started at the closest challenge. And I want to just clock the sense that perhaps one of the things, in addition to Rob taking a little bit longer on the trapeze, is that they did waste a lot of time driving away past both challenges to start at the furthest one.
Ultimately, we've watched and recorded podcasts now for 5 going on 6 seasons of The Amazing Race.
Soon will be 6.
Soon to be 6. Shout out season 12.
Shout out!
One of these days.
We're almost there, folks. Stay tuned. I think what we've learned from the finale, the final leg, it's a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
You get one chance at it. There's no do-overs. There's no room for error. There's no, will it be a non-elimination? There's no, we just gotta not come in last. Somebody comes in first, somebody comes in second, and somebody comes in third. I think what my brain is going back to is season 32, right? Riley and Madison were very much John and Greg. Maybe not at the same levels on all skills and attributes. We were so confident in them from the beginning, through the middle, through the end. But in the end, Will and James ran the better leg. They didn't make the mistake. They had every reason to finish first, and they did. Madison and Riley just didn't that leg. I think if you run this leg a bunch of other times, John and Greg, like we said, they were the ones that should have won, and they did. And probably less amount of times out of the 1,000 would be a Rob and Corey or a Joel and Garrett. And I think that's just kind of how it goes. It's not what we necessarily want from the finale. I think we want to have some grander climax, some more definitive answers, definitive closure maybe. That, I don't know, I feel like we're kind of feeling a little void there. Am I wrong?
Well, I think that comes down to not who won, but more so just the makeup of the episode. We typically see a very conclusive type of challenge that pulls in different aspects from throughout the season. And we did see that with the canoes, but I don't know that it was a sense of tying a bow on top of the season as it's been in the past.
Did you feel that way, Josh?
Absolutely. Where were the flags? We didn't have any flags challenges. That is a big aspect of the Amazing Race that was just completely overlooked. Frustrating.
Or no music piece. No, yeah. There was no other sensory input. There were no visuals. There was no music. It was just words on a canoe.
And I think that that's a big element too. I'm a big believer in elements of the city that you're in and elements of all of the challenges coming together. And it was canoes, I guess. Okay, kayaks, kind of. But I don't think of Seattle and think of kayaks, number one. And then also just the names of the challenges. You're just kind of there. What I thought was interesting is that in the beginning of the episode, the way to introduce Seattle, Phil was talking about how much coffee that people drink in Seattle. Yeah. And then never did anything or mentioned anything about coffee. It's how do you... What? Where are these ties that is the reason why we want to learn about these cities or want to go to these cities? I want to watch this and say, how cool would it be to go to Seattle? And I did that when I saw the top of the tower. But I did not do that when I listened to 3 awful grunge punk bands. Oh. It was what? Where are we getting our cultural element? And the cultural element just felt lost. And I think that also ties into the sense of the scramble happening in 3 isolated areas, all indoors. Those 3 indoor locations can be anywhere in the world, and I would have no idea. I want to understand and get to know the people of Seattle, the city of Seattle, and feel like this is really should be a tourist video to make every one of us leave here and say, I need to go there. And I didn't feel that way. I don't know how you guys felt.
I completely agree. And building on your point, it makes me think back to season 32. What city were we in when Will and James won?
New Orleans.
Of course, we were in New Orleans.
Yeah.
We got Mardi Gras.
remember.
We were on the streets.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
a marching band. We
Yeah.
had beads.
Yeah.
We had Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
We had the French
King
Quarter.
Cake.
We had the King Cake. We had the Superdome.
Yeah.
We had where the Saints play. We had a marriage proposal.
Yeah.
We had the 50-yard line. We had everything.
Yeah.
We had landmarks that we're going to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a memorable, not just because of the proposal, but the 50-yard line where this,
Fantastic.
come on. Like, amazing.
Yeah.
The contrast between being outdoors the whole leg and then running into the stadium. Kim and Penn, they were at the tennis stadium when they completed their memory kind of summary
Yeah.
cumulative challenge. And then they ran into where the LA Galaxy play.
Yeah.
There's something about running into that just sticks with you. This will not.
No.
This will not. Kayaks, is kayaking a big thing in Seattle? I guess.
And the airplane hangar just had the address on it?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah,
It's just poorly planned, poorly figured out.
yeah, and I think it just kind of misses the mark.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
I will say, though, however, this was maybe the coolest route info ever, being that it was them, would we call that rappelling? Or
Walking across the top.
walking across the top of the Space Needle?
Yeah,
That was really
Very cool.
That
Very
was really cool. That was
I agree.
But why was it cool?
because it was iconic
Yeah.
to Seattle.
Yes.
Right. Every single person that watches this episode is going to say, oh, man, look at how cool that is. Look at the sky. Just like the players, the contestants were saying. Look at the mountains. Look at the water. Look at the skyline. Look at the buildings.
But also because it's not something that like any tourist could pay and do at
Yeah,
Seattle.
Love that.
That was set up by Amazing Race specifically for this show.
It's almost like I'd rather them have scheduled the scramble in the Space Needle and like start with some challenge at the base of it.
Yeah, there's a huge park there. Yeah.
Right, okay, there's a huge park. Maybe they have to sell something. Maybe they have to throw the fish. Isn't that another place? Pike's place?
Yeah, Pike's Market.
Like maybe go there. It's like a ground level thing. Then you get up into the middle of the Space Needle and do something.
Go to the original Starbucks store and brew coffee, and just like
Yeah.
we see in Germany when they're taking or having to carry those steins.
Yeah, or do the mustards.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't
Yeah.
huge fans of the mustard, but it was like, oh, you're enjoying. Okay,
Yeah,
have
you do
fine
it.
mustard.
You do it. Yep.
Do you think it's because they've already been there, done that?
Then go to a new place. The United States has so much to offer. Like,
Yeah.
have we been to Albuquerque, New Mexico? Have we been to Austin, Texas? What is capturing where people go? Like, I wouldn't even be mad if they were in Scottsdale, Arizona, going to a bachelorette party, right? Like,
Philadelphia?
no. Absolutely not. We're not going to Philadelphia. Anywhere else, please. But I think it's just like finding what's the places that people are going to now. It's the Scottsdale. It's the Austin, Texas, right? It's those sorts of places that
Nashville,
the
Dollywood.
Nashvilles. Yes, exactly. What would be a cool place to go to now that in 2000 wasn't the coolest place to go? Because we've talked about this. Reality television is capturing the moment. It's capturing the time. And when you're in Seattle in 3 dark buildings at night, it's not capturing the time. It's not exciting to watch. I would like to bring up the sense of the scramble.
Yeah, let's talk about the scramble.
I think I have problems with the scramble.
I agree.
I just think that it is almost too chaotic and no sense of where you are and no sense of drama, because every incident is isolated and only towards yourselves. And we don't have scrambles throughout the entire race. Why is there a scramble now? And it's frankly kind of boring to watch.
I feel like the last one we had was the first episode of last season, if I'm remembering that correctly. And maybe it's a better first episode where you have 12 teams and they're all making these decisions and you're still getting to know people and it's more about teams in isolation versus straight up competing in the same place.
It just felt like I think about some final challenge. I mean, there was a season that they were in Boston and for their final challenge, and they had to like walkie-talkie to the people behind the Green Monster, and like watching other teams come up and thinking about communication and watching someone on the edge of your seat like about to pass the other person was so exciting, you know, or running down the blocks in San Francisco right before you're about to get to the finish line. That's exciting. To watch a team like struggle while they're doing trapeze by themselves with no teams on their backs is like not exciting to watch.
Or with the team having to do the practice tutorial while the other team's doing it, and there's only one trapeze net and have the three. So if they all go there, then one can pass the next because they're just more athletic.
Yeah, there was just not as much drama. And for a finale episode, this is the most exciting time to say I cannot make a mistake. But every team made multiple mistakes this episode.
And they didn't even really know it.
Yeah.
It's like we'd rather them make the mistakes and know that they're making
Have
the
a make a
mistakes.
mistake with a team on your back and watching teams jump in first and second and third, not make a mistake and not really know where the other teams are and hoping that you're not in third and trying
really,
to be there. It's
the only part of the episode where we saw that was when people overlapped at the second part, which was the grunge.
Yeah.
Greg and John were trying to figure out where's this missing piece, and Rob and Corey actually had the advantage in that they can communicate without them hearing.
Yeah.
Whereas that was something that they picked up from overhearing Greg and John say like, oh, we need a power source. We need this.
Subtle strategies, subtle advantages.
Yes. And
Love strategy.
Right. And it's all made possible because they're in the same place.
yes, because they did overlap there. But then after that was it. Then it was just like every team was running their own race, which is not as exciting to watch.
I get why they would do it, right? In theory, it's going to create a mystery. And the mystery of who's in first, who's in second, where are they? And you hear the teams narrating and saying, well, we haven't seen Rob and Corey in a while. We don't know. We know this is happening. Yeah, whatever. But there is that element that gets lost of them not being in the same place.
Yeah, and I think that there's an interesting element that we talk about every week on The Amazing Race, and we say that like the team that's losing is boring to watch.
Definitely.
Right? The team that's always at the back. And what this does is prevent any team from being too far behind.
Yep.
So that you think that everybody's in it. But I think we all just kind of were just watching. Like it was a passive watch instead of like an on the edge of your seat watch. That I thought was, and this is the one time that you can lean into, there's going to be one team in third place. You know, if one team shows up an hour later, but the first two teams are minutes apart, I'm going to call that a winning episode because this is the one time that I care about first place and that's it.
And that's it.
And this is the only episode I don't want to scramble.
That's true because we always see the first team number one first place announced at the 60-minute mark when we have a 90-minute episode.
Yeah.
But in the finale, we get the winning team, the team number one, first place, at the 87th minute.
Yeah.
And so I guess if that's their goal, to create an episode that we actually do get that and we're focused on the front and who's in first and Greg and John overtaking Joel and Garrett, that was a win. The design with the scramble worked. because we're not in the back. We're not following the team who's going to get eliminated for that last 30 minutes of the episode like we have for the past 11. But I still think we're overall not happy right now as far as like wanting a little something more like we're describing.
I mean, what if the scramble just made you do 1, 2, and 3 in order? I think it would have been exciting to watch all 3 teams do the glass, and then all 3 teams do the grunge, and then all 3 teams do the trapeze.
Probably wouldn't be called a scramble then.
No, it wouldn't. It would just be multiple challenges. But I think that they were all close enough in that, and these were 3 surprisingly close teams for the finale. I think we all thought that 1 or 2 teams was going to blow one team out of the water, but they all stayed in it, and it would have been fun to watch them compete back to back to back instead of, I don't really know what's going on. Oh, one team's in the lead. Okay, there it is.
So the way it worked out was that Joel and Garrett and Greg and John started the scramble going to the glass, and Rob and Corey started at the grab or the trapeze. They all chose to go to grunge second. Joel and Garrett and Greg and John went to the grab third, and Rob and Corey went to the glass third.
Yep.
So Rob and Corey did 2 of them in isolation. Greg and John and Joel and Garrett did it in the same order. So they were kind of together the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Greg and John and Joel and Garrett finished first and second place.
Yeah.
Like you said before, Josh. Let's say that they all did go into 3 different things to start, and we never actually had them together. Does the scramble work better then?
Worse, because then you really don't get any overlap, and you don't get to have any idea of who's in the lead.
But that's the benefit too. You lose on the people are at the same challenge, but you gain in you could have cut the screen literally into thirds and showed them doing it simultaneously, something like that, the entire time. That would be something that could be gained from it.
And that would be exciting. And I think we analyzed this in the last episode, that like it is exciting when you see teams competing with each other, like good teams all doing well, and put all 3 teams competing between the challenges. And I think that that's pretty exciting to watch.
Do you think they have to put into the finale certain elements that I guess are just essential to the Amazing Race, like driving, navigating, a cumulative memory challenge? Instead of those core elements of the race, what if they just had it at the Seattle Seahawks Stadium and they had 3 tasks, 1 out in the parking lot, 1 in the concourse, and 1 on the field, and those are the 3 tasks, 1, 2, 3, bing, bang, boom, 1 area, but you lose the navigation and all that, but it's this kind of like how the best episodes of Friends were the one that they were all in Monica's apartment, right? 1 scene, 1 setting, all 6 characters right in the one place, versus the scramble throughout a city, other core elements like driving, navigation, communication, things like that.
No, I want to see more of a city than just a stadium and a stadium parking lot. I want, like we talked about before, we want to see all elements of the city. We want to see the culture of the city. We want to see the people of the city. That's what makes The Amazing Race great. Part of why it's great.
This is the finale. This is why we're watching. We have the 3 best teams, or the 3 teams who have made it to the top. Who is going to win? This needs to be beyond any other challenge. It needs to be harder. It needs to be faster. It needs to be stronger. You need to, and I steal this, outwit, outplay, outlast, right? Like how do you do that? And these challenges didn't showcase that. I do want to get the cultural element of the city you're in, but I also want this to be the challenge that says run by foot to the finish line and then a team takes a taxi, right? Like I want to see these mistakes that happen due to how difficult the tasks are. And frankly, we didn't have difficult tasks. To get your feet up to trapeze is not difficult. You just gotta do it. You know, to blow the glass is not difficult. You just gotta do it. To plug in the amplifiers isn't difficult. You just got to do it. And so what we want to see is strategy. What we want to see is gameplay. What we want to see is cultural elements. We want to see the city. And we didn't get any of that this episode.
Wow, we're so out on the fucking scramble. Okay. We didn't really get a sense of Seattle. Yes, we got the Space Needle at sunset-ish. But we definitely could have had a little bit more. Where was the coffee? Where was the famous landmarks like the Pike's Place?
Where was the PNW? Where was Tillamook? Where is these elements?
Shout out Tillamook.
A big shout out to Tillamook. We had Tillamook tonight. We had it twice. We had the aged cheddar in some cheeses. Shout out to Ben's Bread in Seattle, Washington. Delicious, some cheese isn't. We also had some Tillamook ice cream. You know what? I'm carrying a Tillamook bag. We love Tillamook. Shout out. We love it. We love it. We love it.
Please sponsor us, please.
That would be a dream come true.
Where were we?
But we're talking finale. We're talking about design. We're talking about the scramble. But is there some other element? Is the finale just... Do we build it up to be more than it is? Or was it just design and bad? It felt like we were missing something from a finale.
I feel like we needed more time. I think if it maybe had been a 2-hour episode, perhaps we would have gotten more elements that we feel like we're lacking.
But does that mean more? Do we need to see all 8 failures of Joel or Rob and Corey?
I want to see an additional maybe roadblock, maybe I don't know, something. I need more.
I think we were missing navigation because I think navigation gets really tense and I just keep thinking about, I think, probably the best finale ever, right? In San Francisco. Season 2. It really was so captivating and exciting and thinking a city. Like, how amazing would it be to be like, John is like, I know this road on Northeast 7th Street and make a right and then have to run and then it's a sprinting race and, or they're trying to take a streetcar and they have to get around and you're on a foot race, right? Those are the most exciting finishes when you're on a foot race to the final mat. And maybe we would know who would win in a foot race, but I think that sense of navigation brings us into the world of we watch this and we want to be in these locations and we want to explore and we want to navigate through this land, and we didn't get any of that navigation.
Or I like when it's up to them to choose how they get there. So, like, for example, if they were in New York City, it's up to them. Do you want to take the subway or do you want to take the bus?
How do you get back from JFK?
Right.
Do you have a train?
Do you leave your taxi there? Does the taxi leave at JFK and you don't know how to get a taxi back?
Right. So I think that would have added another element that would have made it much more exciting. We're always looking for more strategy.
There was no strategy in this episode. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Josh, you said a pre-episode, and maybe last week and maybe 3 other times we talked about it. And where was Joel and Garrett's notebook? Where was that notebook that could have been like a little bit of a foreshadowing Easter egg that they put in that episode?
Please.
Where was that in?
Maybe can you describe it? Can you tell them what happened? Do you want me to?
Yeah, they were building this birdhouse, this elaborate birdhouse, and they had to paint it, they had to assemble it, and then they left their notebook with all
a notebook. We didn't know what this notebook was, and they had to go back.
Right.
They lost time from this challenge that they had to go back to get this super important notebook, and we find out that this notebook is a collection of a list of every single thing that they've written down throughout the race, because they know, and we know that at the end of the season, there's always a cumulative challenge where you have to bring in all of the elements of the race. And that felt detrimental in that episode. It felt so important that they had to go back to get that that we wanted to see it come back now. We wanted to see them pull out that notebook when they had to do the kayaks.
And that would have been the ticket to winning the race.
Yes.
My guess is that every team has a notebook.
Oh, without a doubt.
Every team does,
Tell us
and
about
they're
it.
not.
Right, but where is it?
I bet that notebook is not allowed to be used at that final challenge.
No way.
Then.
No
Tell
way.
us.
'Cause
Tell us.
Kim and Penn. Kim was all over that. She had it in her hand when she was rallying off the Napoleon drawing hat that she had.
She had a notebook.
I'm
though?
telling
I
you.
don't remember that.
Well,
Then-
Holderness
then say it.
family, if you're
Say it in the
listening,
clue.
let us know. Right in the comments.
But say it in the clue, right? Like say like you cannot use any of your things that you had. Oh, damn, we had this notebook that we made sure we went back to get. Maybe we didn't need to go back and get it, right? Like just like tie it through, bring in that
I
clean
do think
storytelling.
they should have like flashed back to that notebook. Then, like, why even bring it up?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And that's my whole thing that I'm thinking about right now is that the cumulative challenge to just be a pile of kayaks with the names of the roadblocks and other tests that they had, and the oars that they put on each stack of kayaks had the countries. Like, okay, they checked the bare minimum of boxes, but I think I just want more of the cumulative activity. I want them digging in those notebooks. I want to see what they remember. I want to see all of the race come to life and not just be a couple flashbacks. I think that's where I'm struggling.
I just had a thought. This season was recorded and edited and produced in a shorter amount of time than other seasons. Why is that? Because of the writer's strike, they needed 1.5 hour long episodes so that there is an old season in the vault that is 1 hour long episodes. They had to conceive all of these challenges, and more importantly, they had to get through every episode until the final episode, which is probably what was pushing the deadline, and they couldn't fully think through. And then they had to quickly rush edit this season to get it out to CBS on time.
And don't forget, they put this season ahead of the actual season that we're going to see in season 36.
Exactly my point. And maybe we're seeing all of that late sloppy editing, that not quite thinking through the finale because they were trying to think through all of the other episodes and all of the planning, and it's just coming out as sloppy content that we're frustrated by.
Shout out to the writer's strike being over. We never want to see that happen again, especially if it's producing sloppy, cumulative tasks at the finale of The Amazing Race. We won't have it. We simply won't have it. Is there enough of a walk down memory lane? We get the kind of the flashbacks. In a perfect world, could we bring all the experts back?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, could we bring all the people from the mats from all the countries? Like, could we bring back all of the characters? Like how Seinfeld, the series finale of Seinfeld was the court case, and they had everybody from the entire series come back. Like, would that be a good thing?
I love that idea.
Thank
I
you.
want to see
Thank
the
you.
Mustard Man. I want to see the Dragon Man. Bring them all back.
And not a picture of them.
No, the actual people, fly them in
Fly them in.
and put them in order. That would be amazing.
It really would. There is something about Survivor and when they walk, you know, and they see each of the torches that are blown out from all of the people, and you get this building sense of what they've gone through, what we've all gone through by watching this whole season, and what we're getting to. And we didn't have that like moment of reflection that I think is also missing from this season or this finale of The Amazing Race.
CBS, if you need somebody to plan out challenges or be on the race, I am available. We are available. Shout out to us being on season 37. But
Plus fabrication.
Plus fabrication.
Plus fabrication.
Josh Warner design.
Bring
Yes.
the needle through to the finale so that we feel like we can tie the button and we're ready to leave it. I don't feel like I'm ready to leave The Amazing Race season 35. I feel like I'm still in it, and we never had that moment of reflection, that closure, that exactly what you're talking about. Bring back all of the experts, bring back all of the people at the finish line, bring back a table of all the food that they went through. And I think that
Make them eat it.
Make them eat it, right? Yeah, make them eat the bugs that Morgan and Lena had to eat, right? Like,
yes.
I want to say, oh yeah, 6 weeks ago when we started watching this, 10 weeks ago.
Right, make
like,
them pose for the picture that
Yeah,
they did in India.
yeah, I want to
Like a
have those.
speed dating, yeah.
Right, just those moments of like, oh, I forgot about that. I love that, and warm your heart of what we've gone through by watching this whole season. And we really just rushed through that by putting kayaks up. Like, okay.
We've gotten this far into the podcast, and we haven't set aside some time for our favorite mustachios. Joel and Garrett, second place, but why did they lose?
I mean, nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw that they would be in second place. I think if when we started, including them, I think if we started the season and said why didn't they win, everybody could give you a whole list of reasons why they wouldn't win. I hate to say that they probably didn't have much of a chance of winning, but I don't know how much of a chance they had at actually winning. I think that they got really, really far, and they got further than they could have expected, we could have expected. But I think it's more about look at how far they've come and not why didn't they win, in my book.
They could have won, which is shocking. They were only lost by what, 120 seconds?
Such a random John Gregg way of saying that. Anyway.
But they could have won, which is kind of shocking. Because this whole race, they were not front runners.
No.
They always were kind of middle of the pack people. They weren't bad, but they weren't amazing. And yet they just kind of skated through. And yet here at this final leg, they did pretty good. Not winning good, but I just hope that they could still get the guide dog for the daughter.
As we get into our future power rankings for next season, I think this is a good reflection to echo what Nicole was saying and beg the question, what makes a winning team? Right? Because
we've struggled with it all season long.
We all struggle with it.
Aside from Greg and John, we knew.
Looking at Joel and Garrett, what makes them good? And what makes them a team that, why did we all overlook them? And how did they get this far? Is it their incredible sense of going with the flow, but also making decisions and being kind of smart, or like you said, kind of skating by? We always say, just don't come in last. Who's going to be the team that skates by and then nips you in the butt in the end, right?
When people approach things that are super uber competitive, like The Amazing Race, like Survivor, like Big Brother, whatever reality shows, and they play it the way that Joel and Garrett played it, which was fun, to have fun, to be proud of themselves at the end, to never fight, filled with joy, to be filled with, competitive spirit, but ultimately to do it in such a way where you see the love, but you see this joy. And we've asked ourselves a number of times after episodes, how are they having so much fun? And it's great. We love that they were having so much fun. But I think it always kind of, in our minds, because this is such a competitive thing, there's $1 million at stake, it's such a unique opportunity. Like, yes, on the one hand, our brains are like, yeah, you should enjoy it, you should have fun. But on the other hand, I feel like our brains, when we're saying like, oh my gosh, super competitive, it shouldn't work. These guys aren't playing it this super competitive way. They're not cutthroat enough. And it doesn't compute to a winning team. And you combine that with the world records on Joel's beard and the Polar Express mustache that Garrett has. And they're mismatched, I think. Shout out Malcolm Gladwell. They're mismatched. Like, they're not in the greatest shape. They're kind of older. They're happy-go-lucky. Let's have fun, guys. Beards, mustaches. Yet they're in this finale trying to win the million. It's kind of like mismatched. Their approach to what they were actually competing for.
I think we also hold everyone always to the Boston Rob and Amber standard.
Shout out Boston Rob and Amber.
Always. And anytime we see a team that is strategic, that is athletic, that is cutthroat, that is cunning, that is problem solvers, that will do anything to win. And
raise or change the game itself.
Yes.
Trailblazers.
Yes. And
separators, game changers, change agents.
We have yet to see anybody even touch that level of gameplay.
The only response that I could have is that we can go back and listen to the phrases that you described as Joel and Garrett, and I would equally say that you could name the grocer's love. Retail. And you could equally say that retail love. And
Shout out Jocelyn and Victor.
Shout out Jocelyn and Victor. And Liam and Jeremy. I think all three of them played this game as like, we love each other. We're never going to fight.
Yes.
We're going to have as much fun as possible. And we're going to get as far as we can. But why did Jocelyn and Victor get voted out or get eliminated so early? Why did Liam and Jeremy make it to a forgettable point in the season?
Very forgettable.
And how did Joel and Garrett... what made them different than those other two, right? Because I feel like you can classify those three as like that was their MO, right?
Yeah, we said that last week.
And yet somehow Joel and Garrett came in second, and those the other two did not. And is that just is this just a game of luck, or is there some spunk that Joel and Garrett had that the other two just didn't?
Definitely a combination of both, but perhaps in this version of this 13 teams, maybe it was just luck with the tiles back when Jocelyn and Victor got ousted, and maybe Liam and Jeremy were just on a different journey.
I do wonder if there was something about who they were playing for that might have added something.
Without a doubt.
I think Joel and Garrett playing for their family, playing for their kids, not just playing for themselves, but playing for that higher meaning is different than Jocelyn and Victor trying to get to know each other on a personal standard outside of work, or different than Liam and Jeremy being apart for some time, or different than Morgan and Lena trying to get to know each other, or different than mom and daughter like trying to rekindle their relationship, or different than Annalie and Steve like being apart and now getting married and moving away. Like, I think that there was something about playing for their families, playing for their kids, and having fun that probably led to Joel and Garrett kind of having the perfect mix of need and want and play and fun that got them this far.
Well said. And to build on that, I think it's the same with Rob and Corey. I think their relationship, and that was kind of their parting words. Their parting words of through American Sign Language, through The Amazing Race, through their relationship, and we felt it, I'm going to say every episode.
From day one.
From day one, from when we first met them in the Instagram. Right. We saw that their relationship was so strong, and at the end, Corey reinforces that because of the way they communicate, it's this extra special relationship. And Rob said it too, right? He's so proud of his son. He said it every episode. And they were talking about him being a coda and how proud he is of that. And like you're saying, Josh, I think that probably is the scale tipper. like Rob and Corey were playing at a different level of relationship.
Also, part of what made Rob and Corey so lovable, aside from their whole story, is always how expressive they were.
Yes.
With every challenge that they finally overcame, like the expression, and it's part of sign language, is actually facial expressions.
Yes.
But I think it's also what adds to the emotion and like bringing in the audience, that like you root for them because you see how much it means to them. It was just heartbreaking to see them come in third, not even second.
Yeah.
Third. Oh.
I want to just say thank you to Rob and Corey, because I think we all, if you have a pulse, we all learned from watching them, right? We all learned about communication, love. Everybody that can relate to a father-son relationship, or a parent and a child relationship. The expressiveness that you're saying, very powerful. It makes me actually wonder, and that was one note I made at the end after their kind of closing thoughts when they finished third on the mat, was like, do people who don't speak American Sign Language, like people like us, people that are watching around the country, whatever, do we express ourselves anywhere near the way that they express themselves to each other? My hope is that not only did they represent their community, but they also taught people the importance of expression and expression of love and expression of how much a relationship means to you. And I think that was really powerful from moment one through the middle, through the end. And I think that's what makes it a really great season. And maybe let's go there. Was this a really great season?
I think overall it was. Overall, we had some really great episodes.
Definitely.
And I think some highlights were, if we want to pull out highlights.
Shout out highlights.
For me, highlights were the Thai massages, the fish market, and the river dance. Those were the top three for me.
Was Riverdance number one?
Riverdance, by far number one. Yes. The comedy, the musicality, the ridiculousness, the speed, the failures, the successes. It had it all.
Give me a dancing challenge. Give me a singing challenge. Give me a rune. But it felt great to be back into The Amazing Race as we know it. I know we had the COVID seasons, and that's ultimately what seasons 33 and 34 will likely be kind of categorized as. Charter flights, everything all aboard. We didn't get as much airport as we wanted. We didn't get as much strategy and backstabbing in the airports that we may have wanted. But it felt good to kind of resume back to some of those elements, core elements of The Amazing Race that we've come to love. And I thought kind of that return to normalcy, at least that flavor of it, was enough. And we had some really, really compelling teams. And ultimately, like we started the podcast with, I do think that John and Greg were the best team. I think even though our power rankings had them 2, 3, 4, I think if you asked us 50 times to do it, we would have had them number one most of the times. We just happened to not choose it, maybe because it was too obvious.
Yeah.
Right? I think we would probably say those kinds of things, but I personally like when the best team wins. That's just my flavor. So I think it's a great season, a lot of the reasons we talked about, and the right winner.
Yeah, I also agree. I thought it was a great season. I think that each of the teams were really well casted. I think that we connected with a lot of them a lot of the time. But I guess I hearken back to this sense of community, about like just watching this and being a part of it, and being a part of following these people on Twitter, following these people on Instagram, seeing that they're all at an amazing race party, and watching where are they now, who's talking to who, what's going on. It does feel like there's a sense of journey and a sense of where we started is not where we are now, and that we've all kind of grown with the show and with the people, and that we have made some friends, even though we don't know them at all, but they've been in our living rooms every week for the last 15 weeks, and that's really exciting and really special, and it's really nice to have a new group of friends and a community.
Any other closing final thoughts on season 35 of The Amazing Race?
I think just echoing what I just said, I think it's really special to have this community and have Tom and Nicole here every single week, being able to catch up from what you guys hear, but also the initial, hey, how you doing? How was your week? How's it going? It's nice to have that kind of rock, that even if I know that I'm having a bad week or I'm out of the state, that there's something going on, and there are two people that I know are always going to be there, and it feels really good, and I'm really grateful to be a part of the ReRACEables. I was super excited to be a part of it in the beginning of the season, and I'm just as equally proud and grateful that I've been a part of it by the end.
Agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said, Josh. Also, in the rest of the community here of watching a show live, something that we never do anymore. This is pretty much the only show that I watch live. And I just think it's something that I miss. I feel like it's like the good old days of watching a show and being able to chat about it with your friends, except it's even better because we get to do it right after it happens.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the great joy that the ReRACEables podcast has brought us. I know it's brought me that. We started this in COVID, tribalcouncilblog.com, trying to connect with the Survivor and Amazing Race community. And I think, 4 years later now? Almost 4 years later, I think we are doing that, and it's been a real joy. I love learning about these interesting people. I love talking about them and this amazing journey that they go on and they allow us to be a part of as fans and viewers and part of the community. I think the only thing next to do, Josh, is for us to really make the casting video and make it happen. Folks, the motto for next year is all in, and I appreciate the chance to go and do that when it comes to the ReRACEables podcast at tribalcouncilblog.com. So thank you to Josh, thank you to Nicole, thank you to everyone out there who helps support us through this. This has been an awesome season. It's been a true joy to cover it from beginning to end. Congratulations to Josh, our top 3 Power Rankings champion for season 35. And congratulations to all the teams from The Amazing Race season 35, including 3rd place Rob and Corey, 2nd place Joel and Garrett, and your champions, the brothers Greg and John. We will be back next season, season 36. Thank you for joining us tonight and for all season long. And be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Check out all the Survivor 45 content, ReRACEables Podcast 35 content. See you for season 36. Thanks, everybody.